So fundamentally, no, I don't think. Yeah, that's.
That's no.
Oh, yeah. Do you throw everything all on that one ballot?
All right. This is a this is an action-packed day, that's for sure. All right. Are we ready? Everybody in? We'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday, September 6th agenda session. If I can get a motion on our minutes, please. I have a motion on our minutes. Second, minutes will stand without objection. We have ordinances on final reading this evening under council office. Item A has already been read into the record. Any questions, comments on that item? If you'll look down council for resolutions, we have several appointments. We have a surplus of property. We have under finance item G of particular interest from last week. If anyone has any questions about item G, if you would hit your light. I am seeing none. Okay. Madam Vice Chair, I do see your light.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of review this item again and go over a couple of questions that I had about it as soon as I get myself together here. I'm sorry. And what was I guess in essence, the reasoning for the PTO buyback again? Hey, Rant.
Hello.
Ms. Goldberg.
Yes.
Yes, so we have currently 5 employees who were overpaid during the pay plan implementation. The reason they were overpaid was because of an error with position seniority date for the employees. Position seniority date is not something that we use for anything else in the city, and we haven't used for anything else that would cause an overpayment. But it was used as the primary driver in the pay plan implementation, and that was determined as the best course of action by the third party that we utilize for the pay plan implementation. So it created a baseline for everyone to start with. It said, all right, however many years you've been in this position, you get credit for those years to move you into the pay plan to a certain position, up to the midpoint of a pay range. So we had 5 that we're aware of currently. We're still doing an audit to determine if there are more. But there are 5 employees who are overpaid because the wrong position seniority date was used. And therefore they owe money to the city. And it ranges from $2,000 to $10,000, depending on the employee. So one option that we wanted to provide these employees was the ability to sell their PTO for 100% of the value. The EIG currently states that the cap is 70% of the value. So we wanted to ask council to approve a one-time exception for certain employees that meet the criteria for overpayment from the pay plan implementation to sell PTO for 100% of the value so they can use those funds to pay back the city in the event that they have spent the money that they already received and owe to the city.
Okay, and so the error is on the city's part, and of course, like I said, the seniority date was sent out to employees, and were they asked to confirm those dates, the seniority dates?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so what would be the, I guess, consequences, or I guess what would be the issue with just forgiving those dollars?
As from the executive branch, we do not have any authority to gift public funds to anyone, including employees. So that would we would have to rely on counsel for that if that was an action that you choose to take. But I would defer to the attorney on whether or not that is something that he would recommend legally that you all do.
Okay, yes.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Oh, that was easy. No, ma'am. All right. Well, that's all I got there. That is. Like, oh, okay. Yes.
Well, it was only 2 words. That's the one that got me.
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
Wow, gosh. Well,
Okay.
okay then. Well, that is all my
We've
questions.
been trying
then.
for that, some of us, for 6 years.
So thank you, Brent, so much for answering my questions. I just wanted to make sure that was on the record and just for clarity on my end too. Thank
Yes.
you.
One thing I'll add, Vice Chairwoman, is there are routinely errors that happen, whether it's benefit calculations or whatever it is. And sometimes we do overpay employees. And in the past, we've done payment plans with them where we withdraw a certain amount out of their paychecks over a certain period of time. And we're willing to work with employees in that regard as well to set something up that works best for them in order to recoup those funds. And that's something that we do routinely.
Okay. Thank you, Brent.
You good, Madam
I
Vice
am.
Chair?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Councilwoman Hill?
Thank you, Chairman. So I had asked in a conversation with Joda for the specifics of how much each of these salaries was and to understand exactly what the pay was supposed to be versus what it was. And it's now to know that people were asked to confirm their seniority date. Is that accurate?
Brent. Yeah, so
Okay.
I do know that they were provided a piece of paper, and I got this information while we were sitting in strategic planning.
Yeah. It's been a busy afternoon.
So my understanding is they got a piece of paper that outlined their seniority date, and I will confirm whether they were asked to verify it, but the information would have been there. It's not just to say that they would have gotten a new number and no way to verify that on their own. They would have seen a date that was most likely pretty out of date, but up to 10 years. But I am preparing an email to send to you with the information you requested, and I'll go ahead and send that along to
Yeah, I mean, what I
council
would
members.
what I would like to know to inform my decision is what the error is on the part of the employee versus on the part of the city. If we're talking like your seniority day was 6 years off or 1 year off, and the gravity of the split of the responsibility here, I just still don't have a full understanding of.
Yeah, Councilwoman, and one thing, I just pulled up an example of a letter that was sent to an employee, and it does state their DBM rating, which you all may recall from the Gallagher study. They did everything based on DBM rating. It includes the position seniority date, pay grade and range, and salary. I don't think it asked them to confirm.
So the letter
Anything.
itself says your DBM rating is this, your seniority date is this, your
Yes.
pay grade is this. Okay.
Yes, and your salary is this. So it does spell those things out.
Okay.
The other question about the salaries, what the salaries were specifically for each employee, what the variance was, that we'll have to get HR to prepare
Okay.
information for each one of these employees. I don't have that. I just have the amounts that are owed for the 5 employees.
So what steps is your department taking to ensure that things like this don't happen again?
So, this is extremely isolated. It was 5 employees
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole pay plan implementation. Like I said, there may be a handful more, but again, this was the position seniority date was the driver for this error.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use that to determine pay on a regular basis. That's why I consider it isolated. So I don't know of anything we could have done on the front end to prevent this other than do a preemptive audit of all position seniority dates, which is pretty labor intensive. But we are doing an audit now to make sure that all the information we have in the system is correct. It just takes time for us to get through, all 2,600 employees and verify information.
What's that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, the cause of the error is not used to determine pay normally. So it wouldn't be something that causes an issue on a daily or weekly or biweekly basis.
Joda, you and I discussed this afternoon or this morning the possibilities of how the city might be able to work with terms for people that might be a little different, perhaps, than in other situations. Can you share that with the council, please?
Yes. So understanding that this was a result of an error on the city's part, we want to try and be as flexible and as generous with our ability for that individual to repay as possible, whilst understanding that in some cases, these amounts are significant to this person's livelihood and their family's livelihood. So we are willing to work with an employee to say, offer a repayment term over, let's say, 60 months, which would reduce in the most dramatic example, down to 66 or something, $60 to $70 a paycheck. Certainly that's not insignificant, but it's absorbable. And I think that is a balance between being flexible with an employee whilst also recognizing the city made an error, whilst also respecting the fact that these are taxpayer dollars that we have an obligation to be good stewards of.
And you all can choose to do that without action on the part of the council.
I believe so. Is that correct, Brian?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So last week I brought up the fact that, I wanted us to have a solution that offered as much mercy and compassion as possible. And as a city council person, obviously we also carry the responsibility of being fiscally responsible and setting policy that is legally justifiable, and everything we do creates a precedent. That said, while I'm disappointed to find ourselves in this position, I do think that those two things, the extending the terms alongside the 100% buyback option for time off, I appreciate those steps y'all have taken. With regard to time off, I imagine that 100% would be at the adjusted lower salary, correct?
Yeah. It would be at their current rate.
At the appropriate rate.
Yeah. What their correct current rate is.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate all the time you've taken to get us the information we need on this. That's all my questions, Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hill. Councilman Henderson, you are active.
Mr. Brentberg, don't go far. So first of all, I have to admit, I missed the question that the answer that Phil gave was no.
Don't forgive it.
Should we forgive it? Okay, so you just said no, we shouldn't forgive it.
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure that was the question. 'Cause
Yes, I said no.
I've got to learn how to ask those questions to you more often. Hey, Brent, on the seniority date, I think you told me they didn't have to confirm that was correct. Did I hear you say that, or?
I didn't, quickly browsing the letter, I didn't see anything that said you need to confirm this.
Okay, but they would have noticed, I mean, they should have noticed looking over that the seniority date was wrong, correct?
I'll say I would have noticed.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
it is clear. It's clearly stated. It's not buried. I mean, it is like, this is your rating, this is your date, this is your grade, this is your range, this is your salary.
okay. So to some extent that, I mean, I'm trying to get to where that, or understand I guess that burden does fall back on them to some extent, the fact that that was clearly stated, and if there was an error, that should have been brought to somebody's attention. The other thing, do any of these individuals receive longevity pay at the end of the year?
I know that at least one of them does.
Would that be a possibility of them being able to convert their longevity pay?
As a practical matter, I think it'd be easier just to wait and let them get their longevity pay and pay us back with it. It's just simpler. It's only a couple months away.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Henderson. Councilman Hester, see your light.
Brett, for his clarification, so after that audit, potentially we may be back in the same situation 6 months from now?
I don't think it'll take 6 months for us to get through everything. I think within the next couple of months, we will know if there are any others out there.
Okay. So the root of the problem was it, I know I heard, what was it last week? We just didn't have enough employees or after in the human resource?
No, I mean, it wasn't a staffing issue. It was just a matter of the wrong position seniority date being in the system.
Okay.
It was just an error. I mean, and errors are going to occur as long as you have humans involved in anything we do. So that's another reason why I think, if we move toward forgiveness, I just think that is a precedent that will not be good for us in the future as a city, because we're going to have errors that occur.
Error is human, to forgive is divine.
Yes, exactly what you said.
All right, thanks.
All right, see no lights. Brent, one last question, if you will indulge me. This resolution specifically is just providing an option for solutions correctly. This isn't the magic pill, so to speak. This is just providing an option and allowing us to go above the threshold in the EIG of 70% that's already exists there for this type of solution.
Well, so anyone under the EIG policy, anyone can sell their PTO anytime they want to for 70% of its value. As long as they meet the other criteria that's listed, like, they can only sell so much, they can only leave so much, blah, blah, blah. But they have that choice now. We want to offer this option to a select group of employees that are affected by this issue only, to sell their PTO at 100% so that they're not penalized because of the error. We want them to have an option to generate funds to repay.
So this is a flexible option
Correct.
to solve some of the issues or the cases that we're working with. And that's all this resolution is addressing.
Correct.
Okay. That answers my question. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Goldberg on item G? If not, we will move on to human resources. Item G. No questions. And under the mayor's office, a resolution renaming the outdoor Chattanooga building in honor of Philip Grimes. If you have any questions on that item. If not, council, if you will turn to your purchases and hit your light. I know that you received purchases earlier or later last week, earlier than this meeting, and you've had an opportunity to ask questions to staff about purchases for this evening. Councilwoman Hill?
Thank you. I wanted to just briefly talk about the Robert Half emergency purchase. We had some folks that got, I believe we had an emergency something already because we had some folks that got promotions or moved to other departments, and now we don't have them. And so now we're spending 110 because we still don't have them.
Correct.
And they went to another department in the city.
Yeah. Some went to other departments to take promotional opportunities, which is great. The issue for us, I mean, it's really more of the job market. It's a job market issue more than anything. And also we've had some Well, I'll go back. So we got some fantastic temporary employees from Robert Half. And they've been here since we started this. They're doing great work. We want to hire them both. We've hired one. The
Okay.
second one is not currently a Tennessee resident, so we can't hire her. So we want to keep her on temporary contract until such time that she might be a Tennessee resident, which could be forthcoming soon.
Okay.
And we would love to hire her as well. But we also need to get one or two more people from Robert Half to help us get through all of the backlog of things that we have in payroll. And because we bypassed the bid process, to start with, because this was deemed an emergency, we are bringing back, I chose to go the route of another emergency purchase to increase the purchase order so that we could have coverage all the way through the end of December. And therefore, that's why this is coming back to be reported to council.
Okay. And this
I
is
mean,
going
from
to
a- as a
come, it's
cost-
come,
Sorry.
coming out of your line item that would have been for salary and benefits for these folks.
Yes, I mean, overall, it's cheaper for the city because our benefits are expensive. So,
Okay.
Overall, at the end of the year, we would still be under budget because we've had vacancies for so long. But we are trying. I mean, we've posted for hire a couple of times. We're just, it's a tough job market
Okay.
for the position.
All right. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions on emergency purchases or purchases? We have no RFPs this evening. Seeing no lights, future considerations. If you'll flip over to future considerations and hit your light if you have any questions. I'm seeing no lights under future considerations. We do not have any department reports this evening. We do have let me skip back to September 13th. I think I moved ahead on that item. If you would take a look at your September 13th agenda, please. We've had a very fast-paced afternoon. I would like to draw your attention to a planning item A. I believe that we have a request for withdrawal. Karen, can you verify that for me, please? Actually, that was on the 13th. Let me back that up. That was on the 13th, and we did have a correction. So that is on for tonight.
That's correct.
Actually, on a first reading for tonight, not the 13th. That was the correction. Now, will you take that from there for me, please, real quick?
Yes, 6A under first reading, planning item, at Hickson Pike, the applicant requested to withdraw this case. We had a formal request last Tuesday, and they do not want to proceed with this rezoning.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to get that on the record. And we did get that corrected. So if you'll see that under your final read on the 13th, which is where I was. You'll take a look, continuing on. We have several planning items that we will cover today, Councilwoman. Under Planning and Zoning Committee, we have resolutions under Community Development, Economic Development, Finance, Fire, Mayor's Office, Public Works. We do have under Finance the CBID budget approval, which they did present last week. And I'm seeing no light for September 13th. Moving back into our committee reports today are Parks and Public Works, along with Planning and Zoning. I do have Parks and Public Works Committee. There's no other business for our agenda session coming from council, then we will move into Parks and Public Works with Chairman Hester.
Thank you, Chairman. Can we accept the minutes? Thank you. Welcome to Parks and Public Works Committee. Madam, can you read K, L, and M, please?
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 1 with Complete Demolition Services LLC for contract number E16006, Lupton City Mill Site Cleanup and Remediation Project for an increased amount of $137,520 for additional imported fill to complete the required soil cover cap and authorizing a contingency amount of $300,000 for a total amount of $1,862,920.30. L, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number F18001201 wall panel repairs at Fine Hall number 10 to Midwest Maintenance, Inc., Pickaway, Ohio, to repair structural wall panels for $65,059 with a contingency in the amount of $6,500 for a total amount of $71,559. M, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number W1906201 Citico Pump Station Improvements to Heron Construction Company, Inc., Etowah, Tennessee, to increase capacity and improve redundancy in the amount of $9,242,200 with a contingency in the amount of $924,200 for a total amount of $10,166,200.
I see no hands. Thank you. Resolution H, please.
A resolution authorizing the waiver of park rental fees for Chattanooga presents in support of Three Sisters Bluegrass Festival held in Chattanooga Green and Ross Landing for the dates of September 29, 30, and October 1, 2022, in the amount of $8,500, which includes $4,000 in deposits and $4,500 in rental fees.
Thank you. I see no hands. I, please.
A resolution authorizing the waiver of park rental fees for Tennessee Valley Pride in the support of Pride Festival held in Chattanooga Green and Ross's Landing for the dates of October 2nd and 3rd, 2022, in the amount of $4,500, which includes $2,000 in deposits and $2,500 in rental fees.
Thank you. Transportation J, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with Volkert, Inc. to complete preliminary engineering for the environmental design and right-of-way phases of contract number T21005101 Amacola Highway and Riverfront Parkway Resurfacing Project in the amount of $337,300 with a contingency amount of $33,730 for a total contract amount of $371,030.
Thank you. That concludes Parks and Public Works. I just want to say to Public Works, continue the good work for the citizens of Chattanooga. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have a presentation also. Yeah, Parks. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to overlook you.
I'm just aiming for the counselor's one-word summary to wrap up my presentation today. So we have a couple slides real quick. I hope they are in and loaded. There we go. We committed to come to you as staff and provide you an update with how the planning is going for the Parks and Outdoors plan in August or September. So we're a couple of days late on August, but here to give you an update. The goal is to check in with council to make sure we're on the right path for connecting with citizens and that you are satisfied with the progress that's being undertaken. Before I jump into that, I want to say a couple shout outs to the crew that's here. There are a couple new team members that you can lean on that we're happy to join the city. One is Carmen Davis, sitting here in the crowd. She's our new Director of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy. We have Brian Smith, who I don't think needs an introduction to anybody, but he's your new Director of Communications and Marketing for our department. And then Blythe Bailey is the one who's done all the homework here. Important to note, Brian was a critical hire. Thank you for the support on that. In Parks, we are in marketing as much as any private business. And it's vital that we have a strong marketing and communications outreach effort there, and Brian brings those chops to our team. So with that, we'll jump into the Parks and Outdoors plan. Next slide, please. We've met with many of y'all over the last couple months, and just the reminder that I think we all know is that great cities have great parks. When we're in Chattanooga, we probably wake up somewhere between second and third base every day because of the work that's gone on before. The goal here is to advance that another step forward. Next slide, please. And these are the 4 values that came from council and also from the administration on what's really important here. And let me level set expectations, if I may, for a moment. Parks, great parks, are never an accident, and they're never happenstance, nor are they a whack-a-mole sort of proposition. They are the result of systemic thinking over time, over generations. And the goal here is to do that again because we have a great foundation that we're building on. So these are the 4 values we're building around. And unless something's off, we hope we're in lockstep with y'all on this. So this is a chance to raise your hand if something's missing. Number 1 is equity. Everyone deserves a great public green space. That's a fundamental American right. Number 2 is access. And access just isn't about geography. It's about, can I go and enjoy the park with what I want to do? And it can be, I just broke up with my significant other and I need some moments aside. It can be, I just want to go propose to my significant other and have that special moment that you have that access built in. The next is quality. You don't build anything new unless you can take care of what you have. So we are completing an inventory of what we have and what condition it's in and asking the citizens, quite frankly, to grade us as well. And then finally is place, because we ain't Toledo. Bless Toledo's heart. We live somewhere that's pretty doggone special. We want to build on what makes us special. Next slide, please. So these are the steps and the flow chart that we've been working on, and Blythe and his team have been working assiduously on this for the last 9 months, with more public meetings than our department's engaged on, as I understand it, at least the last 20 years. And that's going out and listening, and that's uncovering the data. We are building up for the first time ever, believe it or not, it doesn't exist yet, an inventory. What are the depreciating assets of our park system? I couldn't tell you today what our depreciation schedule is. I couldn't look at you with a straight face and say what our ongoing obligations are yet. At the end of this, we'll be able to do it and begin to have foundational, grown-up discussions about the inventory we have, what we need to take it forward, and what gaps we have. And you can see all the steps that are in there. The key point is, as staff, our job is to bring y'all in the administration a recommendation of options, and then you as policymakers get to pick the ball up there and decide what you want to do and where you want to steer the city. We're going to bring you a couple pathways forward with the best knowledge we can put in front of you. Next step, please. So this is where we are, and this is really the point of checking in today. These are the outreach efforts and the process that is underway, all guiding us forward towards delivery of this in February. And you can see from the numbers up there, they may look like numbers, but they're a pretty big deal, because those numbers are individual citizen contacts where you get to hear about what matters, and you get to hear it from people who may not have had their voice heard in quite a while. Right now, we have the Trust for Public Lands out with coloring books in laundromats and in some of our neighborhoods that are distressed, asking kids to draw. Right now, we have community meetings going on in every burg, every corner, everywhere we can show up and sit down and grab someone to listen and really listen and understand what people want from their public green spaces. And all of that will lead us to create a story that you know and you have confidence in is authentic of what Chattanooga wants and what it wants to be. Next slide, please. And this is the final schedule, and this is the setup for what's coming next and the next time you'll hear us in front of you, where we will ask for some significant time to slow down and walk through some options, because this is very serious work. I hope not just to me as the parks nerd, but I hope to everybody here. But we want to move you all through it. And the goal is to bring you this Parks and Outdoors plan, the first one the city's had in over 14 years for you and your decisions in February as we march our way through. So I'll let that slide sit up. I'm happy to take any questions, and just as easy, happy to keep marching forward. And if I haven't said already in all of our meetings, if there's a neighborhood, if there's a community we should be in, please reach out to us or we'll reach out to you. We want to be out there and hear from your constituents and our residents as well. Any questions, Mr. Chairman? I'll be happy to take them.
There you go. There we go. There we go. We got you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott, I want to take a moment. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, when you talk about equity, access, quality, and place, I have to take a moment to talk about Harvest Inclusive Play.
Mhm.
I know that you've been a part of it. We recently formed the group, but the band is back together, so to speak. COVID really dealt us a blow, obviously, to our entire nation and to the efforts of Harvest Inclusive Play at the Jack Benson Heritage Park. And I don't know if you would like to talk a little bit about what you learned in your meeting, but we're very excited, and I cannot thank Mayor Kelly enough for coming on board with the city of Chattanooga, our Chattanooga firefighters. I see Chief Hyman back there in full support, and the group is really coming together. We have built a media team that is really second to none. I mean, folks like Kim Chapman, I don't know if you've actually heard that name around, who have a lot of experience in this, raising money for inclusive playgrounds. But it's very exciting. Wanted to announce that the band is back together again, And I appreciate you. And Tony, if you're in here, Tony was at our last meeting. So I really appreciate the city getting on board and playing a very strong role, especially when we are going to lead with words like equity and access. I think that's just super vital to what your mission is. And I'm very excited. So I'll just say thank you for coming to the meeting, being a part of Harvest Inclusive Play. And I hope David writes a little bit more about that or asks me about it later. Thanks.
Well, we should have an MOU to that end shortly as well. So that is advancing. Hey, look, we're all, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it's happening around the nation, y'all. Communities are finding their way back together. And it's in fits and starts, and it's not moving in a nice linear path. There's some groups that are ahead of each other. We're going to see it at Moon River this weekend when we learn what it's like to come back together as a community with thousands of people. And I appreciate your support as the community learns the basics of just reconnecting, meeting each other again, and figuring out how to do great stuff.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Chairman. Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Scott, I appreciate this work that you're doing. I thank you for coming and meeting with the Stewart Heights Neighborhood Association recently. Question, the workshop number 2 at the Avondale Rec Center, what time is that going to be on the 27th?
That'll be an evening meeting. Don't hold me down. I think it's going to be about 6, but we'll get the
About
invite out
6.
to you there.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great if you'll
We'll get
have
that
that
out.
invite come through. Thank you, because I didn't get to go to the other one. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
council member, it was the most exciting. I mean, plan is a 4-letter word. I get it, but it was the most exciting planning meeting I've had in a while because it was standing room only to talk about ideas.
Yeah, I'm
and
excited to participate.
That's rare,
in that next one.
y'all. Communities don't do that. I'm telling y'all around the nation, you
Yeah.
don't have standing room only meetings to talk about park planning.
Yeah, District 2 is really excited about the possibilities, and I feel like the energy at times is palpable.
Yeah.
For how excited people are. Thank you.
You good, Councilwoman? Vice Chair.
All right. Hey, Scott. I had a question about, you mentioned Trust for Public Land earlier, and I'm a huge fan of Trust for Public Land, as you well know. So could you let me know, I guess, let us know, what is the role they're playing with this POPs plan?
Yeah, so it's kind of, to use a movie story, it's like the Avengers when Iron Man calls in, I don't know, I'll use the wrong character, but
No.
they're that,
Yeah,
whatever
no,
that
was
is.
good. That was great.
So
Yeah.
they are right now out doing equity accelerators where they have a couple of things going out to speak in languages that aren't our first language here in the States. We have a couple, 10 speakers out right now, or Spanish speakers are out engaging those communities. We have coloring books out, as I mentioned earlier. We have the Park Equity Accelerator, which we announced a couple of weeks ago, which is analyzing our public lands across the entirety of the city. And Councilmember Ledford and I know, agree here, projecting forward to think about where we're going to need parklands when Chattanooga has perhaps 300,000 residents, and pushing out what accelerators look like out there. So they essentially are a listening arm to us. So they're on this train track, we're on this train track, and we're actually going to be able to come together probably, I think, middle of October, Blythe, if I get it right, towards the end, where all that data set comes in and then it synthesizes into what did Chattanooga say. And they're doing that for us gratis. I mean, that's a nonprofit partner that stood up and is helping us out. It is so cool.
Yes,
And it's the envy of Atlanta. So nanner, nanner, nanner to those guys.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that we're working with Trust for Public Land. Just in my experience in South Chattanooga, they have been a great partner with the community, helping with Alta Park Connector and showing us how to activate parks and things like that. So I'm just glad that we're still partnering with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Thanks. Scott, is there still time for public input online or this sort of thing? I'm wondering if somebody could blast us, whoever's in charge of that, for me to blast to my constituents and for you to bring. By the way, this is a great, quick presentation. Thank you. I would love to see something like that on the 16th. And ended with big on the screen. This is how you get in touch with us.
We can do that. We can put a giant QR code up there, let everyone scan
Whatever
it and do it
that
right
is.
there.
And if you could also send it out, because we also have a district blast list. And it's a variety of people. They may have a QR code, or they may want to know how to do it on the web, or they may whatever, but I'd really appreciate that.
We'll make that happen.
Thank you so much.
You good, Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To kind of piggyback on Councilwoman Burrs, I would hope that we would be able to take this presentation to each of our neighborhood associations. Blythe came out to the Lookout Valley Neighborhood Association last Thursday and did a great job, generated a lot of interest. And I think taking it out to where the people are is, I think, our best way of getting this park plan out. I still have Hill City Neighborhood Association that we haven't presented this to, and I don't know if other council people have neighborhood associations that haven't had this presentation, but I'm telling you, Blythe did a great job, and like I said, generated a lot of interest. And some people there, particularly in some of our neighborhood associations, are older and they don't necessarily have access to the web.
Okay.
Quite, as much access as we do, but we have others that are very adept at that as well. But I think pushing this out to neighborhood associations was a great idea. And I think, and hopefully before we do our draft review, we will hopefully have hit all of them by that time. I mean, I know that's a lot of undertaking, but it was great to see that presentation at that level.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Blythe is tremendous out there. So we'll stay at it. So if y'all have neighborhood associations we haven't reached, please reach out to us any way, shape, or form. We'll get there. If you don't watch it, we'll show up for breakfast at your house. So
Scott, let me say this lastly. Thank you for your energy, your passion for what you do. I've seen it firsthand when you and the mayor were out there canoeing along the greenways in District 5, connecting the north and the south together. Thank you for all you do. We ain't Toledo, like you stated. Parks and arts are no accident. I'm looking forward to what you guys going to do for the city of Chattanooga. Appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
thank you.
Chairman, you're up.
I just had one last question. When is the pickleball tournament at Batter's Place going to take place?
We have rules about the placement of council members in said tournaments, so I don't think I'm at liberty to say. But in all candor and seriousness, today, Public Works team that's helping us build that facility had a meeting with our staff. I'm supposed to get a timeline on the Batter's Place conversion into pickleball by the end of the day. So that is progressing, and it's going to be really, really exciting.
Great. A lot of excited folks.
lot of
in
excitement.
The entire eastern part of our city, I promise.
We're going to have to queue them up and line them up to play there. Good problem to have.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to put a lock on the gate or something. I don't know, special code. But. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Next, we're up for Planning and Zoning Committee. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I hereby convene our Planning and Zoning Committee. Can I get a motion on our minutes? Thank you. You all have in your weekly packet a document that is the rundown. We didn't have quite as many cases as we sometimes do at Planning and Zoning at the Planning Commission this month. And the ones that we did have did not have a lot of opposition. So Karen's going to be talking us through a handful of cases this afternoon. And as has become our custom, if there is one that you know you would like her to give a report on this afternoon, just raise your hand and I'll make sure we get that one covered. Otherwise, we're just going to touch on the ones. Oh,
I'm going to cover the first slide.
Oh,
then let
okay. Dan wants to talk. Sorry, Dan. One of these
Well,
days,
after parks and outdoors.
Got it. So
know.
as a standard, you would like to talk to us each time.
And I want to be clear, it's because parks and outdoors is finishing up a lot of great planning work. And we're just beginning some with the zoning ordinance.
It's true.
other things.
And
So
here
it's-
I am.
it's more
I
interesting.
come in hot with all these cases. Well, Karen's going to talk to us about all
Sure.
those. So that gives you all a little minute, if you haven't already identified any cases you want to see. I will say that this month, the cases we'll be looking at, and in coming months, it looks to me like we're seeing a lot of activity in District 8. District 7 had been hot, but I think you get a little breather, Councilwoman Dotley. 8 and 4 are hot parts of town this month. And you missed, Councilman Hester might get a little bit of a breather in September or October for that meeting. Okay, take it away, Dan.
So what we would like to do at the Planning and Zoning Committee each month is have one slide, maybe a couple, that gives you an update on some of the other activities besides our zoning applications. And that's partly because there is so much happening. Of course, about a month ago, we kicked off the zoning ordinance update with our consultant Camiros, and we immediately began engaging a lot of public meetings with constituent groups, the Home Builders Association, architects, the realtors. We've met with Tamara to talk about other groups. We want to come out to eventually to council districts and neighborhood organizations. But we're just starting that work, so there's not a lot to review yet from our consultant. We also, because most of downtown is form-based code district, we've had some listening sessions with owners and developers in downtown to look at the form-based code and also the process on which we manage the form-based code. And then final two quick items. Of course, all the sustainability programs are within the Department of Planning with Eric Schmidt, and we have been working with Eric over the past few months to bring forth to you a new climate action plan as a draft, and you will hear a presentation of that, I think in the next month. And then finally, we have a number of federal grants we're going after tonight. I think is to approve the resolution for Safe Streets for All. But we are also with the Chattanooga Housing Authority and the Design Studio preparing an application for the Reconnecting Communities Grant, which would look at how to connect downtown back over to the west side of Evolves and the Bend project. So just wanted to give you a brief. And each month, if there's anything that's questions you have that you would like us to bring and give you an update on at this meeting, we would be happy to do it.
Thank you, Dan. If you'll stay with us. Councilman Ledford.
No questions for Dan. Madam Chair, it's when we move into our items,
So is what?
when we move into our cases.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. All right, moving into cases. Did you have one you wanted that wasn't in yellow, Councilman Ledford?
It actually is in yellow. It's case number 0178, item B on the
Item B.
agenda.
Mhm.
This one is a little perplexing as I watched it come back through. Karen, this is a repeat, exact repeat case. This is a spot zone request on a small cul-de-sac off East Brainerd Road that I remember vividly. I used to go play some basketball at the end of Meadowlark there with some folks, and I wasn't very good at it. I'm better at pickleball, but anyways, they didn't have room for a court. But I'm curious, this is the exact same request for an R2 spot zone right in the middle of a small R1 cul-de-sac. And
That's
I'm
correct.
glad to see you denied it
It was
from a staff recommendation.
It's right. It was a 2020 rezoning request for the R1 to R2, which is what this case is, and council denied it in 2020. It is, I believe, even the same applicant. The request, there is a different plan. The East Brainerd area plan was just adopted, and it recommends single-family detached as a primary use at this location. And staff noted that there's no other duplex use on that small cul-de-sac, as you mentioned. And we did note with the ADU ordinance in play that might be a good option to have that primary use as a single-family detached use, have an ADU. But both staff and planning commission did recommend to deny. The applicant was not present at planning commission.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Seeing no other lights, Karen, could you talk us through item F? It's case number 0186.
Yes, hold on, let me regroup here on my case numbers. I do them in the order of opposition to start with, so let me get here. Okay, this is and it is not on East MLK Boulevard. It's in the 1,000 block of East 10th Street, so it is correct on the agenda. It is not correct on my slide. The request is to rezone property to the URM3 residential multi-use zone. So we had two cases that are similar, and we've just got information on the same slide. So it is a rezoning to the URM3 residential multi-use zone. And this is for a remote parking lot for the redevelopment of Lamar's Restaurant and Hotel, and it's related to another case coming up. So just to make it maybe a little clear, we're going to go to the site plan, which we normally don't show. East 10th Street is on the bottom. The request is the one we're looking at. You can kind of see the remote parking with the parking lot. The case for the rezoning to the former Lamar site is to the northeast on MLK. So the opposition was not on the Lamar's property site, but was for this remote parking lot, although they were heard at the same meeting. So the property fronts on East 10th. It's accessed off the alley to the rear. One of the comments or some of the discussion at Planning Commission was maintaining the stone wall on East 10th Street. The applicant does intend to maintain the wall and access off the alley. There was also some discussion at Planning Commission regarding the landscaping along the parking lot from East 10th Street, and there was some discussion that that would be to maintain required to code. So the site is located in the MLK plan, which is an older plan from 2009, which recommends multi-unit residential for the land use. The plan does address parking as part of revitalization of the commercial corridor, but this site's located within the neighborhood. It's not part of that commercial corridor as much. But the proposed zone, that form-based code zone, is compatible with the plan goals, and the proposed use of an off-site parking could meet the plan goals if the parking lot is shared with various users in the area. So one of the things that makes this a little bit different is that remote parking is distinct from commercial paid parking lot. So this is not a commercial paid parking lot it is related distinctly to that, the use of the former redevelopment of the Lamar site. So surrounding land uses include a public park, single-family residential dwellings, multifamily residential, and vacant commercial. Proposed multi-unit zone is compatible with a mix of surrounding land uses. I mentioned there was opposition, mentioned the maintaining the wall, concerns about landscaping. There was also concerns about parking and just property values and impact in general. Planning Commission did find that the request is compatible with the plan. Adjacent land uses and development form is recommending approval with no conditions. So that was the only case that had opposition at the last Planning Commission meeting, but I'm happy to go into any of the other cases if there's a question.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, guys, I don't have any lights for any cases you'd like to hear. Is there any cases on our list that we have not covered that you would like us to cover during this committee meeting? No? All right, well, I will not belabor the point. Thank you, Karen, very
You're welcome.
much.
Thank you.
We are adjourned until 6.